Good afternoon. So, my name's Forrest Hamilton, and we're here today, some of you I'm sure just for some extra credit or just because I heard somebody walk up, you have to go into this. Some of you are here to learn, some of you are here just because you got to be, but for the next 45 minutes, I'm going to talk. I could talk about this for the next 45 days because it's a very powerful, very passionate thing for me in my life is influence. So if you can, I mean, some of you are going to play with your phones or what, I'm not going to judge you. I understand your whole world is not about Forrest Hamilton. But if you can, for the next 45 minutes to an hour, if you can try to pause your life, just like it's called the conscious pause. You can actually just calm your thoughts, pause them for a few minutes. What you'll be able to do is take in information that you've probably heard some of what I'm going to say to you before. If you've read any type of books on attitude, or you've read books on influence, or you've read books on success, you're going to get and have already heard this. I'm going to do it in a way, though, that hopefully it'll stick, where you can take some action. And I'm going to share my story, and I'm going to share a few different stories. I love stories. I think story is what life is about. Our favorite things in our life are movies, which is a story, and books, which are a story, and poems and songs, and all of it is a story that we're connected to. And I'm going to hopefully teach you or show you how to tell your story in a manner that can influence others. So I know you're going to enjoy it. I hope you're going to enjoy it. I love doing this. This is something that I love to do, which is speak all over the country to different groups, whether it's elementary schools or high schools or colleges or 1,000-person business, giant entrepreneur groups. But I started in a little different way. Part of the reason I can connect to just about everybody in here is I didn't start out being a confident person, successful. I'll just tell you, I'll take you all the way back. My dad was born in Beaumont. That's how I got here. He was raised in Waco. He was a Vietnam veteran. He went off to Vietnam, was a chopper gunner over there. So if you can imagine, you and all your friends, you get sent over to this foreign country that you don't really believe in the war, and now you're having to shoot people with this big gun in this helicopter, and then that helicopter gets shot down 3 different times in enemy territory. And you're the only one to survive 2 out of those 3 times. So as you can imagine, he had a lot of guilt. Why me? Why did I live? All my friends died. Because what they did is they essentially would send you with your best friends. Like when they did that portion of the draft, they would send you over. Just imagine all your best friends from high school or all your best friends from college. You'd go over together because they felt you would fight harder for someone that you cared about than some guy from Indiana you've never met before, right? So in the end, though, you end up losing a lot of your friends. So when he got out of Vietnam, he was, I'll say it politically correct, they call it a booty vet or a tripwire vet. He went off the grid. I don't just mean he didn't not pay his taxes, which he didn't pay for 30 years. He went up into the mountains of Washington State, way up in the mountains. And he built a little house on the back of a broken down logging truck that was just out there in the woods where he had a little portable sawmill, which is where he made what little money he had. And he delivered me when I was born, just me out there, and my mom, and that was it. He didn't have much training, but delivered me. He raised me. I had no running water or electricity until I was about 15 years old. And I was what I politely call I was the dirty kid. I'd get on a school bus, and it's a pretty well-off area. If you know where Redmond, Washington is, you've got Microsoft, small company up there, Nintendo. I mean, as a whole, it's a wealthy, pretty nice place in Washington State. But we're out in the woods, so I get on the school bus, and I got all the kids that I smell like chickens and rabbits and goats and pigs. And I mean, I have to take, we don't have a shower, so it's like you want to take a bath, you heat up the outdoor bathtub once or twice a week. So it was not a lot of fun. I was picked on, I was beat up, I had very, very low self-esteem. As poor as it gets. Sometimes we'd have a car, sometimes we wouldn't. But I had the opposite of influence. I had little to no influence on anybody in my world at school. Because I had such a low view of myself that if it was up to me, I would just disappear. I would just sit in the corner. Hopefully somebody just won't notice me, because if they notice me, they're probably going to smell me, or they're going to laugh at me, or they're going to do this. So I went through, until my freshman year of high school, I had one friend. One. And he was the only one that basically kind of grew up similar to me. His family had a little bit more money than we did, and they had running water. No electricity, but they had running water. And so it was that was the one acceptance that I had. And then all of a sudden, in high school, I'm working on the farm, so I ended up pretty strong. We didn't have a car, so I'm walking or running a lot, so I was pretty fast. So all of a sudden, the coaches see me running next to these other kids, and the kid's pretty fast. So I get put onto a football team. Mind you, I've never played any type of organized, I couldn't afford a glove. So I didn't have organized baseball, we didn't have organized football, I mean, I had nothing. But they see me running fast in PE one day, and they say, why don't you try out for the team? Well, 3 months later, I'm starting tailback, I'm starting center fielder, and all of a sudden, I go from no friends, picked on, beat up, to literally like homecoming king. Because I score a few touchdowns and hit a few home runs. Well, that was really hard for me to manage. All of a sudden, I had massive power of influence and no clue what to do with it. I was invited to every party. I was, everybody wanted to be friends with me. Hey, come over to my house. Where just the week before, literally like a week before, it was, knock my lunch over and stuff. So I had some inner turmoil, as you can imagine. I say that I went through a midlife crisis while I was a freshman, sophomore in high school. I was angry. I was bitter. All the things I thought I ever wanted, which was just to be accepted by these groups, to be allowed to be a part of them. I was now in them, and now I thought, it has nothing to do with me. So I had this major identity crisis at a very early age. One day my mom said, hey, would you have done it differently? If the roles were reversed, because I was crying or I was punching something, I was mad, would you have done it differently? She said, if you were the rich kid and there was a poor kid, are you sure that you would have not picked on them the same way? Oh, I would have never done that. There's no way. She's like, are you sure? And so I thought about it. And I realized that they're just kids that were circumstantially happy or circumstantially sad. Essentially, that's what a lot of children feel like, is that whatever their parents give them or don't give them determines their level of happiness. If they go to the Christmas tree and they get the present that they want, they're happy. If they don't, the other thousands of dollars that are spent on those Christmas gifts are down to 2 because they didn't get the one toy they wanted. Anybody ever see that before? So I realized I had to go through this process, and in the moment I had this little flash, and I realized I don't know for sure if I would have done it differently. Because I started to look and see that it's just like a made-for-TV movie, right? Where, you watch it happen, the poor kid, or they do the makeover on the girl, and now she's the homecoming. It was my life, right? And she starts to be mean to her friends, right? I did that. All of a sudden, my one friend that was always by me, he wasn't cool, right? And I was cool now. Well, I did the same thing to them, and she showed me that. And so, by the time I was a senior, I was friends with every group. I had figured out that you can have influence, and every person has value. So, all of a sudden, I started to believe in myself. I started to believe that I could be friends with every person in this room. I could look at every person and not know your background, but if I sat with you for 30 minutes and talked to you, that I could draw out a story out of you that is just as cool as mine. Mine writes well. Mine is like the rags to riches thing, because now I'm going to go into some of the stuff that successes I've had because of my background and how I looked at it, but mine looks really cool on paper. When you have the rags, and then you have they call it mess to success in the speaking world. When you have that mess, and then you transition, you go through this transformation, and you have success, it sells really well on a speaking circuit, or in a book, or in a movie, right? That's what a lot of them are about. But many of you haven't had the success yet. Really, many of you haven't had the mess yet. You may have had a pretty easy life most of your life, or you were wealthy, let's say, and you haven't yet had your fall. The cool part is, if I sat with you, again, this is something that's important to me, I mentor a lot of kids and adults, is that if I sit with you for 30, 40 minutes, I can pull out and hear the pieces that are strong in your ability to influence others, and how you feel about yourself, and how you feel about others, and that is the key. So I'm going to read you this definition, because this is why we're here. Influence: the capacity or power of persons or things to be a compelling force on or produce effects on the actions, behavior, opinions of others. The capacity or power of persons or things to be a compelling force on or to produce effects on the actions, behavior, and opinions of others. So, who feels like they're an influential person? Raise your hand if you think that you're an influential person in your world, whether it's your circle of friends or whether it's your family. I can eventually, who has a friend? Raise your hand if you have a friend. Okay, I just want to make sure. All right, so you are, whether you know it or not, you're influential. You affect others by how they watch you. But most of you, if you did come here to learn, and hopefully when you leave here today, the thing that you'll get from this is that when you go out of this class, I imagine we've got sophomores and juniors and maybe a few seniors in here, but when you leave here, you don't have to wait till they hand you your diploma to start having an influence on people in your world. To start having an influence on people that you may want to work for. All right? So here's the transition of my story. I get out of high school, and I've gotten offers to play baseball all over the country, about 7 different schools, right? So relatively big schools. But I picked Beaumont, Texas. Of all the schools, from University of Washington to USC, why do you think I picked Beaumont, Texas? Family. Someone in my family had an influence on me. My uncle, who started this little coin company 20 years ago. Has anybody ever heard of Universal Coin and Bullion before today? A few of you? Okay, cool. So he started this little coin company 20 years ago. He bought it from somebody the business was failing, and decided to turn it around and he was going to sell it. And that was his plan, a little $50,000 business. Well, now it's nearly a $100 million a year business. But the fact that he was a multimillionaire isn't what drew me to him. That wasn't what the influence was from. It was that every year, from the time I was 7 years old until I was 17, he would send a plane ticket. My dad and I would hitchhike into the Seattle airport. My dad would put me on the airplane, 6 years old, and then get off the plane. That's when you could actually go behind the security. And then I would fly to Beaumont, Texas. And I spent my summers in Beaumont, Texas. So I would go from rags, literally, to jet skis and going to Rayburn and riding in a Mercedes. And I got to see, anybody ever read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, the book? You should. It's a good book. I know I shouldn't tell people that have just been 15 consecutive years of school to go read more books, but I'm going to do that a few times in here, so get ready. But I would go from, there's a story of Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and his name's Robert Kiyosaki, is the author's name, one of the best-selling books on success of all time. And it talks about how the lessons he learned from his poor dad and the lessons he learned from his rich dad. And I had that. And so when I got out of high school, instead of going to some big-name school that I could go and play baseball for, that was a dream of mine to play Major League Baseball, the influence my uncle had on me was no-brainer. I was coming to Beaumont. I was going to play for Lamar University and Jim Gilligan. It went from, and I never heard of him, other than, from what my uncle had said. So I moved down here, and I realized after about 5 minutes or so that I'm probably not good enough to play on this baseball team. So at least that's my thought. The influence I had on myself is that I got around all these other. I went from being the best player on the field to being sort of bottom tier, right? And so the influence I had on my own mind was, I'm probably not good enough. So guess what I did? I quit. I influenced myself to quit my dream because I didn't believe in myself. So I didn't even go talk to the coach. Well, here's the problem. He had said, we're going to redshirt you. Right? And I thought, I'm not good enough to play. I knew I wasn't good enough to play. That means I'm not going to start. I didn't even really know what redshirt meant. I was so backwoods country that I thought redshirt just meant you suck. When really it's a compliment. It means we like you. We want to maintain your eligibility for a few years. We would like to see you get seasoned. But again, I was listening to the voices in my own head, the insecure ones. I was having such influence that I didn't even go to the coach and say, hey, so am I just not any good? Because about 6 years later, I see him at some charity event or something. He's like, what happened to you, Seattle? Where'd you go? So, point being, listen to the voice in your head, but then if it's detracting, if it's having a negative influence, go talk to someone around you that views you in a different light. Go talk to somebody, a teacher, a parent, somebody that you know, and a lot of times you won't know, but somebody that has a better opinion of you than you do, which isn't very hard to find most of the time. We are our worst critics. We as humans, and especially the age group of anywhere from about 17 to about 70, right, really beat ourselves up, and we judge ourselves a lot of times by one or two poor actions that we've ever taken. You cheat on one girlfriend when you're a junior in high school, and all of a sudden you blame yourself as a cheater, even though you've been a perfect boyfriend or husband since then. No, you had one issue, and we were on a break. I'm just kidding. And but no, it's like we do that though. We beat ourselves up so badly based on a specific action that we continue to beat ourselves up. So here's how the story works. I leave baseball and I go work at my uncle's coin company, and I find myself doing the same thing. I'm around all these. I don't know if you've ever been on a trading floor or seen a stock market when the bell rings, and you see these. When you're a broker, as in the sales world, whether you're doing securities or whether you're doing gold, it is a live, confident environment. And I got eaten up. I was terrified of these very confident men that were doing this, and I was 18 years old at the time. So I thought, I need something that will help me to become more confident, to believe in myself. So I listened to a cassette tape, right? Before it was a CD, called Psychology of Achievement by Brian Tracy. Anybody ever heard of Brian Tracy? One. Two. So this guy's like my hero. And here's why. Similar background, grew up poor. He didn't graduate high school. In fact, he flunked out of junior high school English. And now he has 55 bestsellers to his name. He's a multi-millionaire, just an amazing guy. But this cassette tape called Psychology of Achievement, it started to plant things in my head, right? Some people call it self-help, and they brand it, right? But I'll just tell you, it changed my life. Because as I'm listening to this stuff, he's speaking to the voice inside of me that doesn't really believe in myself. And I start to think, wait a minute, he's given me a path that if I will follow this path, will work. And here's what he said. He said that he flunked out of high school, went off to go, he wanted to go across the Sahara Desert. I won't tell you this whole story right now, but essentially goes with 3 guys that are also dropouts and crosses the Sahara Desert. He finds a way to influence these other guys that don't believe they can do it to cross the Sahara Desert, influences countries to let them to do it, takes basically bicycle rides from France all the way down to the desert, other than going across the Strait of Gibraltar, but he crosses the desert. He does this, and it gives him confidence to believe in himself forever. But the biggest lesson he got, and if you only take one thing from this, please hear this, is that he realized his will, his drive, his desire to go do something was not enough. He needed knowledge, but knowledge wasn't enough. How many people do you know graduate from college and then don't really become a success? Are on welfare right now, right? So he realized that he needed drive, desire, knowledge, and then application. And so he put this little thing together, and he started to practice it. He went into sales. And he said, all I need is drive, desire, knowledge, and application. And so he had drive and desire, and he started doing door-to-door sales. And he was terrible. But this other guy that started at the same time as him, making like $2,000 a week. He's making like $200 a month. And he's like, finally he swallows his pride and goes, what are you doing, to the guy? And the guy's like, oh, well, whenever a client says this, I do this. And he's like, man, that's awesome. So he does that and it works. So he goes back to the successful sales guy and says, well, what about this? What do you do when a client says this? He goes, oh, well, I say this and this and this. And Brian's like, oh, it's awesome. Where did you get that? And the guy goes, oh, right here. And he opens up this bag. And in this bag, notice there's a bunch of books, right? And he opens up this bag, and in all these books on sales. Well, the first one is this one. If you haven't read it, you should. Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. And he shows him all these books, and Brian's like, there's books on sales? And the guy's like, yeah. He goes, well, it tells you what to do? I'm like, yeah. So he goes and he buys these books on sales, and he starts to read. And he reads for 2 to 3 hours every morning before he goes out on his sales calls. All of a sudden, the same people that were slamming the door in his face, he's starting to be able to have an impact, an influence on them. He's starting to learn methods and techniques, but more importantly, ways to think in his own head to make himself believe in himself because of his knowledge, and his knowledge that is now turning to wisdom. Who knows the difference between knowledge and wisdom? Anyone? Application, right? Knowledge is knowing that a tomato is a fruit. Wisdom is not putting it in your fruit salad. Okay? So, just having knowledge means very little until you actually make it become a part of you. Until you actually start to take action with it on a daily basis. So that's what he did. Well, by the way, the guy has read like 2 hours a day on a different subject for like the last 40 years since he learned this lesson. So he started doing it, and within 6 months he was the top sales guy in his entire business. Within a year and a half, he was the top manager of a multi-billion-dollar business. Within 2.5 years, they made him into this like top-level VP, and he promptly failed his butt off, almost had to close down the whole company because of his poor actions. Because he was great at sales, and he was great at managing a little sales team, but he was terrible at running the operations of a business. So what do you think he did? Read more books. That's exactly right. He started reading books. So he started this system. It was essentially about a 3 to a 6 month system, where he would, every time he wanted to try something new, he would go get all the best books about that subject from the top authors, from the ones that all had success, and he would study his tail off. And he would apply those things immediately. Not just read it, but apply it. And each time he had success. Well, he's become one of the top speakers in the world. He's the guy that at these big Get Motivated seminars makes $50,000 for an hour of speaking. I mean, he's that guy, right? Well, I decided about 3 years ago that I want to meet him because I had had lots of success in my life. At Universal Coin and Bullion, where I started working for my uncle's company, I started listening to his CDs. I followed the steps. I bought the sales books. I read them, and I became very successful in sales. I learned how to influence myself, which consequently allowed me to influence others. Where some people were asking a client for $1,000 in sales, I was asking clients for $1 million in sales. Well, part of the reason that that works is because if you believe you're good enough to ask for $1 million, then they hear that. The client hears that. If you walk into a job interview tomorrow and you say, I think I'd like to do this job, whatever it is. Let's say you want to be a manager of my business. You want to come in, I want to be a sales manager at Universal Coin. And you come in and say, I think I'd be good at it. I've never done anything like that before, and I'm kind of scared about it, but, you should hire me. There's not a lot of confidence in that. But if you come in and say, you know what, I've been studying sales, and I've been researching it over and over, and I think that the most important things in sales management are understanding your team, are being focused on having a plan, and on communicating with people. All of a sudden I'm thinking, maybe this is a person that I would hire. Maybe not as a sales manager, but I want to hire that confident person. So then one of the main ingredients, if you're going to write something down, main ingredients to influence is being confident. So to be confident, you need to gather knowledge. You need to turn it into wisdom. You might think to yourself, this sounds simple. It's too simple. But I'm telling you, if you will take these exact things that I'm talking about, and you will start to do them, I can't guarantee you'll have success. But I haven't ever seen anybody that did it not have success. I've watched, I don't know how many people, since we started at Universal Coin. When I got there, we were doing maybe $1 million a year, $2 million a year in total sales around the country. For us to now be almost $100 million isn't because we became really, really good salesmen. It's because we all figured out, number one, that we were worth more than being $1 million Beaumont company. We became one of the largest gold and silver investment coin companies in the world. And we did it by reading about how others did it, by studying it, by making it be part of who we were. So, I don't know, I got about 20 minutes before we start some question and answers. I'm going to read from a chapter, and by the way, I'll give you some pieces that I'm still learning these processes over and over again. Pieces that, for instance, I'll give you a little plug on Universal Coin here, is that if you come to us, right, we're not going to just hire you. We need employees. We're growing so quickly, and whether you're looking for a sales position, whether you're looking for a marketing position, whether you're looking for a computer position, we're growing so fast. When I started working there, we were averaging maybe 5,000 new customers a year would come to us, which we could handle pretty easily. Now we're averaging, in some months, 5,000 new customers in a month. There'll be the first weekend in May. We're going to be at the NRA convention in Houston. We'll probably get 5,000 new customers in a weekend. So I could hire another 50 brokers right now. In fact, our HR department is working their tail off to hire as many as we can. And it wouldn't be enough to manage the hundreds of thousands of clients that we have that are seeking understanding in how to invest in gold, how to invest in silver, how to collect it. So what we do is we hire as many as we can that fit our criteria. And guess what? Our criteria is pretty simple. It's the ones I just talked to you about. Driven, that are motivated, that are passionate, that believe in themselves, or have the potential to quickly believe in themselves with just a little bit of coaching. Right? We need somebody that's going to be confident to go do that. That's the sales side. Sales side is it's commission based, and if you have questions, who are they going to talk to? Angie? Yeah, so you'll talk to Angela or Angie, and there's also some places you can go online, pick up a form on your way out. You can click on a link to find out more information about us. But you'll see that it's commission based, and I'm not going to sit here and talk to you about the hundreds of thousands of dollars a year you can make. That's not my goal. I don't want you to come to us just because it's a place where you can do very well financially in sales. Definitely you can, but if you come to us, I want it to be because you want to come to a place that has the ability to teach you some of the pieces I'm telling you. If you were to go work at Merrill Lynch, right, which is a good company, right? I have quite a few friends that work at Merrill Lynch. But if you go work at Merrill Lynch, it's about Merrill Lynch, and it's about securities, and it's about trading stocks, and it's about this. It's less about life lessons. It's less about fulfilling what your dreams are. And I can say, not just because I'm pitching my company right now, but I'm about to show you my experience with what Universal Point has done for me, is that every dream I've ever had, I exceeded. Financially, relationally, business-wise, exceeded many times over. I have to keep rewriting a new bucket list because of what I've learned at Universal Point. So I'm going to read to you a couple of chapters. This is a book that, this guy right here, by the way, is Brian Tracy. This is me when I had shaggy long hair. And I'm going to give away a couple of these books, though, for some during our question and answer period at the end of today. I met him just to say thank you. And I told my wife is Stormy. I'm Forrest, she's Stormy. Those are our real names. I told my wife, I said, I want to meet Brian. It's about 4 years ago. I want to meet Brian, and I just want to shake his hand. I want to thank him because without listening to Psychology of Achievement, I would not be successful. I don't think I would be as successful. I don't think I would have done as much. I just want to say thanks. She's like, well, go meet him. So I call his office, and they say, sure, $50,000 an hour. Right? No, I don't need that bad. And Stormy says, she's kind of always my voice of reason, well, do that thing you do. Where you find a way to meet it, where you use your influence, essentially. I started thinking, all right, so she's turning my own stuff on me, right? Which wives are great at. And so, in a good way. So I start calling his office, and I start asking for him, and they're like, you can't talk to him, you have to have an appointment, you have to be part of his coaching group, you have to do this, whatever. So I call for like a month. I keep calling. Finally, I connect to his personal assistant. This is in Solana Beach, California. It's not far from San Diego. And I explain my story. No running water, no electricity, no successful businessman, I really want to say thank you to Brian. She's like, well, sure, $50,000. They're all trained very well, right? Because accessibility, when you become very successful, is an issue. If everybody can reach you, they all want something for nothing, is what tends to happen to very successful people. So they have to protect themselves, and they have to have layers of people to get between them and all the people that just want stuff. So finally I connect, though, and I start placing some orders, and I start telling her my story, and eventually I get a phone call. And it says, hey, Brian's doing something in New Mexico with 12 business owners. He'd like for you to come. Real suspicious, right? What do you mean? Well, what do you mean? What is it? Is this like, how much do I have to pay? You'll just pay for your hotel? This is the group that pays him $100,000 a year to meet him 4 times a year, right? If you'll fly to New Mexico on Fridays, Monday, fly there on Friday, all you have to do is pay for your hotel, your food, airfare, and then the session is free. One of our inner circle members isn't able to make it on this trip. I'm still skeptical. And I'm sitting there on the phone. She's like, but we need to know now. And I'm trying to tell Stormy about it. She's like, what are you doing? Say yes. And I'm thinking, there's got to be a trick. This is like something I'm going to get there, and then they're going to like try to get me to do some timeshare. I don't know. It's like, got to be a trick. But I say yes, because I'm thinking, if I just get an hour with him. I fly into New Mexico. I go up I walk into this little reception room, and Brian Tracy comes in, and he's like, "You must be the guy that's charming all my secretaries," right? And so I was like, "Oh, this guy's really nice." Well, we hit it off. I spent 3 days sitting by him in a conference room. I share my story. I share my successes in life. I ask questions with all these other, I'm talking very, very wealthy business people. And I'm like the little kid in the room. I'm having to fight to have influence. I'm having to remind myself that I have value, that I can add to these people, even though they're 10 times to 100 times more successful than I thought I would ever be. And I do it. I connect. I get real. And here's how you do it, by the way. The best way to have influence on someone is to listen to their story. Get interested in them. When you meet somebody, don't just talk about you. It's hard in this setting. I try to get some questions and answers, but it's hard, right? So if you can get interested, though, in the other person's story, they instantly become interested in you, which allows you to have some influence on them. So take that little one of those, right, as you leave. We meet, we connect. At the very end of it, he says, I meet 1,000 people a year, because he speaks to over 1 million people a year all over the world. He says, I meet about 1,000 a year that come up to me and they say, I'm going to be the next Brian Tracy. He said, but about once every 10 years I meet somebody, and I tell them they should be the next Brian Tracy. Forrest, that's you. Well, I start crying. My hero, I'm making a fool out of myself. Oh, yeah, I'm going to hug you. And he's like, woo. But we connect, and he says, how'd you like to write a book with me? It's one of the things on my bucket list. I don't know how to write a book. It seems like this huge thing, right? And I'm like, I don't know. I'm not ready. I don't know how to write a book. And he said, listen. He said, every single person has a book inside of them that only they can write. And the world deserves to read. And I'll never forget those words that came out of his mouth. And I thought, I can do it. I said, yes. And so it's terrifying, but we co-wrote this book called Pushing to the Front. Frontline strategies from the world's leading experts, and there's a group of us that wrote the book, and we gave all the proceeds to charity. It was really an awesome process. Became an Amazon bestseller, #1 bestseller. So changed my life, that process. We've co-written another one called The Only Business Book You'll Ever Need, and it's got all kinds of people from, anybody ever see Jerry Maguire, the movie? So Lee Steinberg, who's the top NFL agent of all time, he was who they made the movie about. That was his story, was Jerry Maguire. He wrote a portion of the book. Top real estate guy, just some of the best authors in the world, and business people are in that book, along with me and Brian. Well, it's opened up a whole world that if I hadn't had the guts, the passion, the desire to go meet this guy, that I really just wanted to say thank you. But I also wanted to potentially, if there was a way I could have some influence on him, to where he could then have some influence on me, I wanted that. Mine's a great success story because it's exploding. The best book I've ever read, other than the Bible, is Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's written like in the 1930s. It's changed a lot of people's lives. I just finished my chapter called Think and Grow Rich Today, which is one of the greatest honors of my life. So, point is, I started multiple businesses. I own a film company called Poor Kid Films. Back to my roots, being a poor kid, right? We just had our world premiere at Austin South by Southwest Film Festival called Snap. Give a chance to check it out. Go Google it, just type in Snap 2013. And it's a movie with Nikki Reed from Twilight, Dustin Hoffman's son Jake, Thomas Decker from Transformers, Jason Priestley. Awesome, really fun psychological thriller. But point is, I'm telling you all this not to brag. It has very little to do with me. It's about those are my dreams. I had a dream of being in the movie industry and writing books and speaking on stages all over the country and having a real estate company and having a winery. Those were like some of my dreams. And the way that I accomplished them all before my 40th birthday, right, which came in really, really scarily fast, is by doing what I just told you he did. Read about whatever it is that you want to go do. Study it. I know you don't want to read anymore, but I'm telling you, it's the secret if you'll do it a little differently. Read about it, study it, internalize it, and then take action on it. And understand that you have value. You have enough value right now to walk into any business in Beaumont that says they're not hiring. Please hear this. And get a job. I think I could walk into any business in Beaumont, and after 15 minutes with the guy interviewing me, they'd be like, we got to create a job for this guy. Not because of the awards and the accolades, but because of I now believe in myself in a way that I didn't think was possible. but that I've watched happen and be recreated in people that started out just like me, or people that started out confident, but then lost it along the way. So I'm going to read just a few minutes of this, because I think it's important. It's going to paint a picture of universal coin, but it's also going to give you some influence lessons. All right, so try not to be too bored by my writing. This is chapter 20, The Gold Standard of Life, a simple 5-step guide to pushing yourself to the front of your field. Lincoln was not great because he was born in a log cabin, but because he got out of it. Growing up in the rain shadow of the Cascade Mountains, I was the poorest kid I knew. In fact, if you ask me, Honest Abe had it easy. All the rich kids in my neighborhood had log cabins. It was the summer of 1976, and yes, I'm old, and my father, Vietnam veteran turned mountain man, delivered me on a hot, stormy night in the rural town of Duval, Washington. My parents raised me without running water or electricity in what we called the house truck. It was a makeshift house built onto the back of an old broken-down logging truck. My dad taught me the value of hard work. On our portable sawmill, and we raised chickens, rabbits, goats, pigs. We didn't go hungry, but there was no surplus of material things or friends. It's kind of the same. I won't say the same story over. The other kids made me feel like I was worthless, but the love and kindness of my family and one close friend got me through. All that being said, I treasure my childhood, because without it, I would not be who I am and who I'm striving to become. So what happened? What changed for the poor kid that came home crying 4 out of 5 days to the rich man that comes home smiling every day? I can remember my dad singing, "I don't know, but I've been told Forrest Hamilton's good as gold." And he sang it in that well-known Army tune with a smile in his voice. No matter how bad things were, those words always made me feel better. I couldn't help but feel, well, as good as gold. The idea of gold as a standard for greatness in our culture is so pervasive that many of us don't even think about it. Just about everyone has longed for a gold medal, a gold coin, a gold trophy, a gold ring, or a gold star at some point in their life. Since before the time of the Bible, gold has been a means of trade, and it is still accepted in any country in the world as currency. But what is the gold standard? As Webster's defines it, a monetary standard under which the basic unit of currency is defined by a stated quantity of gold. Before 1933, every dollar bill could be traded in for its equal weight in physical gold. So, has anybody ever heard the term gold standard? Right? Because right now, it's used for the best of any category. Right? But here's how it would work. If you went back to 1933, right before I was born, and you had pretend this is a gold coin. This is the coin that my uncle gave me when I was 10, by the way. It's one of the things that made me want to do what I do now. Pretend this is a gold coin. So you walked into a suit company. All right? Back then they had $20 gold pieces, and they had $20 bills. So this is how it would work. You walk in, and for a $20 gold piece, which is made of 1 ounce of gold, by the way, or for this $20 bill, you could buy a fine, tailored men's suit. I mean the whole thing. Shirt, jacket, tie, belt, pants, shoes, socks, everything. Cufflinks, all of it. $20 gold piece or $20 bill. They were worth the same. That's called being on the gold standard. Then, President Roosevelt said, you know what? We're going to take you off the gold standard. So they did something called the Great Gold Recall. They confiscated gold. A lot of people don't even know this. They basically put out an order that said, if you have gold, you have to turn it in. If you own gold in your house, in your bank account, you have to give it to the government. Now, for every one of these $20 gold pieces you give us, we're going to give you a $20 bill. So it's really not that you're losing anything. Right? It's like a little shell game. But here's what happened. A few days after they did this switch, took the gold from the people and gave them these $20 bills, they changed the price of gold to $40. So imagine what you're sitting there thinking as an American. Wait a minute. You just took my gold and then raised the price of it, so now my $20 bill is worth half of what it was a few days before. And that's where inflation started. You know the term inflation. I'm not going to take you through a whole economics lesson, but here's essentially what happened. Fast forward to today. If you go into a nice suit company, right, no matter where it is, and you try to hand somebody a $20 bill to get a fine suit, what do you get? Maybe the socks, right? Maybe the socks. Not the cufflinks, not the tie, not the shirt, not the belt. Maybe the socks. The But guess what if you hand them, you know how much 1 ounce, $120 gold piece is worth? $1,600. Guess what that'll get you? Fine tailored men's suit. So inflation, right, being on the gold standard. Inflation, gold is considered to be inflation-proof. Because today it will still buy the same amount of goods as it did back then. That's why I love what I do. It's because there's no paper money that people can say that about. You can have stocks, but what do you really have? You have a piece of paper. You can have money in the bank and a CD, but what do you really have? Some numbers on a screen or some that could easily get wiped out in an instant. This you have is real. And every single country in the world will accept gold and silver as a means of trade. So here's your little quick gold lesson. Got about 5 minutes here before we take some questions. So I can't say, while the argument persists, whether it would be sound monetary policy for the United States to return to the gold standard. I can say with certainty that you should immediately adopt and implement the gold standard of life. These are the principles that I have adopted and applied to my life to become successful, fulfilled, financially independent. Number 1, live the golden rule, a service mindset. Therefore, all things whatsoever ye would that men should do to you, do ye even so to them. Or as most of you have heard, right? Live the golden rule, right? Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Basically, it means the same thing here. Mike Fulgens is the president and CEO of Universal Coin and Bullion in Beaumont, Texas. Mike and I have worked together since 1994, and I don't believe there is a more knowledgeable, experienced, intelligent, genuine, and award-winning gold coin expert that has ever walked the earth. Mike has taught me many lessons over the years, but none more important than his use of the golden rule with our customers. The importance that he places on every single client and their individual needs is beyond customer service. It is the staple of a business that I have helped to grow into a $60 million a year industry leader. One of the first things I learned is that whether I'm working with an investor on a $5 million gold portfolio, a client that has yet to spend $1, or someone that is upset on the customer service line, I must treat them with genuine respect, care, and personal attention. So as you leave here, to go have some influence, hear that. Whether you're already working in the company, or whether you're going to get your interview, or whether you're going to ask someone on a date, it doesn't really matter. Your influence is your influence. The same techniques work in business and in personal. So that last line I said is, treat someone with genuine respect, care, and personal attention. Right? So how do you do that, though? It sounds so generic. No, you just consciously say, I'm going to go meet this person, and I'm going to, first off, treat myself with genuine respect, care, and personal attention. These are the 3 P's of service that Mike has ingrained into me. Number 1, preparation. The more prepared you are, the more confident you are. The more confidence you have, the clearer your mind is. When you're prepared, confident, and clear-headed, you can accomplish anything in sales, customer service, and life. Anybody ever meet somebody and forget their name like a second and a half later? Right? Now, why do you think that happens? We have a brain. They're telling us their name, and literally a second later, it's like as if they've never told you, right? It's because you're not actually thinking about them. You're not actually thinking about that person. You're not thinking about their world. You're not thinking about who they are. Most of the time, you're doing something like this. I'm going to give you the voice inside my head, right? Hi, I'm Forrest. Tell me your name. Yeah, Forrest. I wonder if he's going to like me. And I wonder who he. I don't even know. What's his name again? We go through this series of insecurities that cause us to forget something that was just given to us. So there's all kinds of tips and techniques to remember stuff, right? But the easiest one I just said is preparation. When you walk up to somebody, just try this. When you walk up to somebody to meet them, do that thing I talked about, conscious pause. Pause your mind for a second and say, I'm going to remember this person's name. This person's going to be important in my life. I find that I don't just go after people that are billionaires to have influence in my life. I've learned that if there's people in this room, not that can, but that will end up changing my life. Because there's about, how many people do I think we got here? 50? Pushing it maybe? 3 of you will connect with me after we leave here. I'm going to give you my cell phone. I'm going to give you my email. I'm going to give you an opportunity at a 15-minute free mentoring session over the phone. which basically means in 15 minutes, and we won't go over, because my time's important and your time's important. But for 15 minutes, you can ask me questions that I would charge somebody $1,000 to ask me if I was actually selling a product. And in that 15 minutes, you can ask me, what do I think about your life? You can ask me, like, what should I do with my life when I grow up? All the way to, what should my next step be if my career, it doesn't matter. Work, business, anything. And here's the problem. 3 of you, because the average is about 5 out of 100. 5 out of every 100 that I give that offer to actually communicate with me. Why do you think that is? Do you think that if I sat there for 15 minutes, raise your hand if you think that could possibly help you in your life, in your business? Okay. So, kind of a trick question, you kind of have to, or else I'm a jerk. But what happens is, though, is that you're going to think to yourself, you're going to get it, and you're going to go on with your day, thinking lunch, or my next class, or my boyfriend, my girlfriend, whatever it is, my job. And then you're going to see that name, Forrest Hamilton, and you go, oh, that's that guy that did that talk and talked about his book and stuff. He said I could call him, but he didn't probably really want me to call him, and he's probably really busy, and he probably couldn't help me anyway. He doesn't know I want to be like a nurse, or you're going to find a reason to not. And then here's what's going to happen. If your desire, if your drive, if your dreams are what's really important to you, then you'll push through it. And then you'll find a way to overcome your fears, your insecurities, or your doubts about me, and you'll think, maybe he can help me. And you'll try it. And then those that are persistent, really are persistent, that are passionate about what they want, they'll find a way to use, because I've got all kinds of resources in all kinds of different fields, and I know thousands of people that can help you, even if it's not with Universal Coin. I've probably gotten more people jobs at other companies. Sorry, my HR guy's here, he's probably going to kick my butt, right? But I've probably gotten more people jobs at other companies that I felt fit them better than my company. Because they weren't ready for a certain position in my job, but they showed drive. They showed desire, and so I helped them connect them to somebody else in the industry, in the community. So, number 2, after preparation, promises. If you say you're going to do something, do it. Always underpromise and overperform. I've watched many sales and customer service representatives get into trouble from unnecessary promises to customers that they forget to keep or deem unimportant. People won't always remember when you keep your promises, but they never forget when you forget. Be on time. Practice would be 15 minutes early to stuff, right? You saw the time I got here today, 15, 20 minutes, right? Because I've found that if I plan to be somewhere on time, I'm usually late. When you're late for something, and I have to fight to not be late. I just do, because I'm caught up and I'm passionate about whatever I'm doing right now, and then I think I can drive fast enough to get there or something. But it shows lack of care. You lose your ability to influence the instant you're late. Your ability to go to, whether it's an employer or a friend, I don't care if they say, it's no problem, you can be late all you want, but they're still like, she's going to be late. He's going to be late, we got to wait to eat. No, just start changing that piece. If you say you're going to be somewhere on time, unless you say, hey, I'm probably going to be late. That's under-promising. Then you get there, you over-deliver. Just communicate. Number 3, practice. My uncle, Lester Henderson, used to say, practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Don't waste your time doing things the wrong way. Do them right every time. Be fully engaged in every activity, or don't engage at all. I've won many sales and teamwork awards in my time with Universal Coin, but I received the greatest compliment in my career on the day that Mike Fulgens asked me to be the Director of Customer Service. Why is this such a monumental honor? Because it takes a multitude of sales to keep a company moving up, but only one mismanaged customer service call to bring an entire company down. Take action. Do unto others as you would have done unto you. Live the golden rule in business and in life. And as Zig Ziglar said, you can have everything in life that you want if you just help other people get what they want. Start using the 3 P's of customer service to evaluate whether you're including or excluding other people in your work and home on your way up the success ladder. I'm going to skip a few sections here. I'm going to read one more, and then we'll take some questions. This is the biggest one for influence for me. Every portion of my chapter in this book is about Universal Coin. It's about the people that I've met there. It's about the people the experiences I've had and how they influenced my life. This one, though, in regards to influence, is the greatest. Everybody knows what IQ means, right? Right? Intelligence quotient. I think that's right. And then what's EQ? Emotional quotient. People that are hiring will hire EQ over IQ these days. They're starting to realize that what you score on your test isn't necessarily how you'll do in the workplace. So they do these personality profiles. What I look at is more how you respond to questions. How engaged are you? I look at these things, and here's what I learned from this guy named Robert Burdy. Life is about chasing your potential, not what you get from it, or whether you ever even reach it. Robert Burdy. As far as I'm concerned, Robert Burdy is one of the greatest human beings that has ever lived. He's taught me more about my mind, my emotions, my process, and myself than all of the Napoleon Hills, Earl Nightingales, Brian Tracy's, and Albert Einsteins put together. He's a general manager at Universal Coin and Bullion, but he's much more than my boss. I've remarked for years that he has more common sense than anyone I've ever met. But it's more than common sense. It's as if he has 1,000 cameras on every situation, giving him perfect perspective and a simple and clear path to what he calls solution mode. Through extensive research and daily clinical trials in our offices for 15 years, I figured it out. I would venture to guarantee that his EI, emotional intelligence, and his EQ, his emotional quotient, is off the charts. One definition of EI is the ability to perceive emotion, integrate emotion to facilitate thought, understand emotions, and regulate emotions to promote personal growth. Edward Thorndike in 1920 used the term social intelligence to describe the skill of understanding and managing other people. There are 4 types of EI abilities that I watch Robert Burdy use on a daily basis to change people's lives. Number 1, perceiving emotions. The ability to detect and decipher emotions, including the ability to identify one's own emotions. Number 2, using emotions. Stay with me here, I'm almost done. This is really huge. Number 2 is using emotions. The ability to harness emotions to facilitate various cognitive activities, such as thinking, problem solving. The emotionally intelligent person can capitalize fully on his or her changing moods in order to best fit the task at hand. Think about when you're in a bad mood, right? Usually, bad things happen when you're in a bad mood. It's just how it works. It's hard to have positive things happen when you're negative. So, emotional intelligence talks about how you can actually take a bad mood, negative energy, and turn it into a positive. Part of what we teach at Universal Coin. Number 3, understanding emotions. The ability to comprehend emotion language and appreciate complicated relationships among emotions. Number 4, and my final number is managing emotions, the ability to regulate emotions in ourselves and others. Therefore, the emotionally intelligent person can harness emotions, even negative ones, and manage them to achieve intended goals. What's the common denominator? The word ability. It's not a gift. It is a learned skill that is a direct result of your motivations and your discipline. Evaluate your ability to perceive, use, understand, and manage your emotions, and you can find the missing link to successful relationships. So, all in all, I can give these two. Okay, so somebody yell out or whisper out 3 things that y'all learned today in a different way that can benefit you and will benefit you as you move forward.
Knowledge and application.
Say it again.
Knowledge and application.
Knowledge and application. All right, which one would you like? Would you like the only business book you'll ever need or pushing to the front?
Pushing to the front.
All right. This one is actually, by the way, going to be my dedicated copy to the president of our company, so you get it instead of him. What is your name?
Yeah.
You're nice to meet you, of course. All right, so she said knowledge and application. Not just knowledge, not just application. Knowledge and application. What else? What's that?
Preparation builds confidence.
What is it?
Preparation builds confidence.
Absolutely. It does. Preparation builds confidence. You get one of the 15-minute mentor packages. All right, so when you leave, just sign up. Okay. Next.
You gotta take mine. I was gonna say having confidence in yourself.
The cool thing is she can't take yours. Because that is, to me, the biggest one. If you take one thing from here, people say, there's actually a billboard on the way to the airport. It says, don't have confidence, have confidence. It's one of my favorite billboards. Don't have confidence, have confidence. It's that simple. All you have to do is choose that you are going to be a confident person and stop listening to the CD that's on repeat in your head about all the bad things about you and all the things you don't have or that you aren't. And start push pause on that and then play the one that's good. Play the one about yourself. If I had you write a list, and by the way, it's hard for me to talk about stuff that I've done because I have this button where I'm like, oh, that's not bragging, right? No, the reason I share these pieces is because I start sweating, right? I don't stink anymore, by the way, but I start sweating when I start talking about myself and successes because I feel like I'm doing the opposite of what I learned in church, right? But then I realize that when it's not about me anymore. If I give each of you, heck, if I give one of you something, and then you leave and you do something with it, and you are able to influence yourself to then influence others, you change the world. And that's really why I'm willing to go through sweating. And, I mean, by the way, I did get paid today. I got a Lamar mug and a Lamar koozie and a paper, right? If I did this same presentation in Los Angeles, I'd get $5,000 for it. The difference is that I want each of you in our community to do something with your life that you wouldn't have otherwise. I want you to have a path to go in and being something more than what you were going to be in a shorter period of time. So I'm going to leave it at this and take some questions. If you'd like to learn more about Universal Coin working for us, but we're hiring in all capacities pretty much right now. Take some of these. This will break down. Some of you probably got this email. But it says, are you searching for a dynamic career in a growing industry? Consider joining one of the largest, most trusted, award-winning precious metals firms in the United States. We are hiring for sales, marketing, webmaster, SEO, system administrator. We are hiring. If you've got a skill set, but more importantly, you've got some passion, you've got some desire to be part of a really cool, family-oriented business that you don't have to stop your other dreams to go be a part of, we're definitely a company that can help you. So come sign up when you're leaving if you'd like to grab one of these. I will take, like I said, if you'd like my cell phone number, I'll give it to you. If you'd like my email address, I'll give it to you. I'm not going to just write it up because it hurts my feelings and people don't actually call. But I'd be happy to give it to you individually. I'll wait after until every person has talked to me and left. I'm happy to spend as much time as possible. I won't give you more than 15 minutes when you call. However, if you like what you got from it, I'm not going to ask you to then pay me. I mentor Lamar students because it was my home too, at no charge. But if we do 15 minutes and then you show drive and then you do something, because I'm going to give you a task when you call. I'm going to give you a little homework assignment and you do it, that buys you another 15 minutes. I learned a long time ago that I can't just give all my time because I've got $3, 5 and under. A 5-year-old, a 3-year-old, and a 1-year-old. A beautiful wife named Stormy. And I would spend all my time with y'all and all the people that I can help and very little time with them. Because I get so much from watching somebody come in here going, and then go out of here going, I can be the thing I wanted to be. So you can come to me afterwards, get my cell phone number, sign up, come see our company. We're doing on-campus interviews on April the 10th. So if you'll get to us before then, we'll be happy to talk to you and possibly have you come work with us. If not, you can also just visit with me. So we'll take questions here for a few minutes. Y'all are free to go during this time frame if you'd like. You can come up here and I'll, as I'm answering questions, give you my cell phone. Any questions? Whether it's about Universal Coin, if it's about how to write a book, it doesn't really matter. Any question, anything we've talked about or anything we haven't talked about.
Okay, so after like the mess and then like the rags and all that, you became successful. What was the most challenging part after that?
It's the same thing every time. It's not believing in yourself, not believing in myself, and then finding a way to overcome it. Because I would reach a certain level where I didn't think I'd ever get to, and then it was like this new mountain that now it's like, oh, I don't have the tools to climb that mountain. And so it doesn't, even though I can teach this stuff, and I can preach this stuff, and I can live this stuff, I still forget it sometimes. Because when an obstacle hits you really hard, when you set your sight on a new goal, right? Everybody heard the story of the 4-minute mile. You know how people don't even really know. So this guy decided he's going to run a 4-minute mile, and the scientists back then literally said, it's physically impossible. Your heart will explode the human body is not designed to run a 4-minute mile. And he said, I don't believe all that. So he started training with the intent to run a 4-minute mile. So where they ended up making the shoes, you know, kind of the Nike shoe with the waffle design to get lighter, because all of his solutions were about accomplishing that specific goal. And he didn't care that everybody said he couldn't do it. He didn't care that he could possibly die because of it. He ended up doing it, but then guess, my favorite part is, within a month and a half after that, over 100 people in the world also broke the 4-minute mile. Because their minds believed they could. They started to expect that something was possible, so they went after it. So I became successful, but then I hit a wall, essentially, and was just stuck. I was like, what do I do now? I'm successful, I've done more things, now what? And that's when I started to go towards more of writing books. I was financially doing very well, but I hadn't done some of my dreams. I hadn't written, I hadn't done movies, I hadn't started a bunch of different businesses. I had to go through that same process over again. And it's the same exact way to do it. Next question.
I have a question about universal point of bullion. I know as a broker myself, we usually don't dedicate much of a portfolio towards commodities. Is that what your job is to sell commodities as an investment?
We do actual physical silver, gold, and certified Newsmax. So we don't recommend more than 25%. So I work well with financial advisors. In fact, I'm flying to Pittsburgh to go meet with a group of 400 financial advisors that all want a presence in their client's portfolio of physical gold and silver, but don't know who to trust. So I work on the 25% or less of their overall portfolio. We help people to develop a plan that's right for them, for their family, so on and so forth. And we do all, you don't have to know anything, by the way. When you come to us, in fact, the less you know usually about financial markets, the better. Because otherwise it really it's difficult to come. Now it doesn't hurt you. I mean, if you came to us, it wouldn't hurt. But my experience has been when people come and they don't know much about it, they're able to hear it through a different set of ears, if you will. Okay, answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Next one. Yes?
What did you major in, Lamar?
Say again?
What did you major in?
Business, and really, that was my minor. My major was elementary education. So I always wanted to teach because my teachers had a pretty major influence on my life. But I left school after about, I guess, a year and a half. Is when I got full-time into silver and gold. And tried all kinds of stuff. I coached gymnastics in that time frame all over the country. I mean, I had a pretty fun story of things that I tried. So,
do you do like co-ops or internships, or is it all like once you finish college?
we do. We do a paid internship once you're out of college. And then we will take applications and discuss what's right. The problem that we have with some of the co-ops and some of the interns is that people a lot of times will come to us and sign up for a little summer internship or whatever, and then they never go back to school. And we don't want that. That's not our goal, is to have you get out of school. We would prefer you to finish school, get your degree in whatever it is you're passionate about, and then come find us. But we would be happy to discuss if it fits and we feel like it's not going to affect your school, in some way, because you just, wow, I'm making more money, or I love it, or whatever. Come to us and we'll discuss it. We'll see if it makes it, if we can make it work. But we definitely are very open. And you haven't been to a basketball game or a baseball game without seeing somebody probably from our company there, either supporting it or just playing in it. So yes.
How many locations does the company have?
We used to have 6 different locations. We've centralized it all into Beaumont. And that's part of what, we're a national company. We do most of our business all over the country via telephone and flying to different locations. But we decided we wanted to be community-based in Beaumont. So we have one location. It's over on Phelan Boulevard between Major Drive and Dowling. And it's a 35,000 square foot office complex with multiple trading floors and marketing departments. And we just decided we could do more with the group all as a unit than we could spread all over. I imagine we will probably start branching internationally before long, but we wanted to be very solid locally first.
I have a question. How long have you worked for the company?
15 years. Question? Yes.
Do you regret not pursuing going to the major league?
I did for a long time, but I realized it was part of my story. I was supposed to fail. I was supposed to be And yeah, I could be just justifying it so that I don't feel the pain of that. But what I realized is I have multiple Major League Baseball clients and friends. I was there at the 2004 World Series with Kevin Lamar, watching them, beat the Yankees at the ALCS and go to St. Louis. I coached Jay Bruce in baseball, and his two best friends work directly for me in one of my internship programs. One just graduated, so I get to do some pretty neat things. I get to scratch the itch of one of my clients owns the Chicago Cubs, so I get to do all the things that I wanted to do. I get to take batting practice on some pretty neat fields that I always dreamed of, right? But I do it in a different way. I think that if I would have gone, I think that fame and the fortune and those pieces would have been, I wouldn't have had the same learning experience. I wouldn't have had the same failure to be able to teach it. So I don't want people to learn from me because I'm a celebrity. I want them to learn because of my story and how they can be in that same story. If that makes sense. Yes?
In like the 0.2 seconds that you actually talked about Poor Kid Films,
Yes.
I was wondering like how you got into doing I'm really passionate about being creative and I would like a creative job. I was like wondering how you got into that while doing Universal Coin.
What I realized is I didn't have a ton of time. I work 10 to 12 hours a day a lot of times at Universal Coin because I love it. I'm usually the first one there, and I'm usually the last one to leave. I don't have to be. It's not a requirement, but it's my passion. It's a company that I love genuinely, and I feel like I owe the world to. Again, you're more than welcome to leave if you need to. But I decided that was important to me, was to try some things. And most importantly, I take a trip there's 4 of us that are part of the Poor Kid Enterprises, Poor Kid Films, Poor Kid Real Estate. And it's the 4 that were the most poor that I knew growing up. We became friends, 2 of us more friends after college than before. And we go on a once-a-year trip. And about 3 years ago, we were skiing in Japan, and we were on a bullet train getting ready to go up to Nagano and do this snowboarding and skiing trip. And we started talking about bucket lists and how we didn't have. And one of the things on my bucket list was to have a company with my other best friends that I grew up with. And so we decided, let's start it. And we started to do different businesses that were each of our favorite things to do. So one of the kids, I call him my little brother, we grew up kind of on the same property area, didn't get along then. I didn't even count him as a friend. We hated each other, essentially. But as we grew older and grew wiser, we realized we had similar things in common. He lives in Hollywood. He's a screenwriter. He graduated from UC Santa Barbara and film school and travels the world, and he works for Twitch Films doing different things. So he said, hey, why don't we do a Poor Kid Films? I said, how would it look? He said, I'll run it. You can be the CEO and the president, and then we'll start and do different projects and work together, but I'll do most of the work. And then he ended up becoming, with part of my help, basically a mentoring session like this, one-on-one, gave him the desire, the belief in himself that he could actually go ahead and be a producer of a major movie. He was like, no, it takes like 15 years. You don't understand how it works. And I said, I understand how business works. I understand how people work. And if you'll do this, and you can be a director or producer now. 3 months later, he's the producer of a multi-million-dollar Hollywood feature. He's the one Snap, which is what we just did. So you can do anything. I'm just telling you, it just takes somebody that has either done it before. What's that?
Do you know if he needs any interns?
We're always looking. So if you want to contact me when you leave, so.